Are you about to assemble your new standing desk? Well, before you start, there are 5 mistakes that you should make sure to avoid. Stick around to find out what they are and how you can make sure that your desk assembly goes smoothly. Hi, I'm Camille Knighton from RightAngle. I think it's safe to say that all of us want to make sure that our standing desk assembly process goes quickly and easily. We also want to make sure that it's done correctly so we can start using the desk right away. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the top 5 standing desk assembly mistakes, how you can avoid them, and what you should do instead. So by the end of the video, you will have the right tools to make your desk assembly more efficient and successful. Assembly mistake number 1 is rushing through the assembly process. When we try to do anything too quickly, we're bound to make mistakes. We run the risk of missing a small but highly important instruction that can make or break the overall assembly of our new desk. So here's what you should do instead. Read from the instructions at least twice. Read them once before you begin to assemble the desk, and the second read will be while you follow along and complete the assembly steps. Take a pause between each step to help prevent from going too quickly. It takes a lot more time to have to go back and fix a mistake than it is to slow down a bit and carefully read and follow the assembly instructions the first time around. Lastly, pay special attention to any special tips in the instructions. These will often be shown with bold lettering, an asterisk, or inside of a box to make them easier to find. Save yourself the potential headache and take your time installing your new standing desk. Assembly mistake number 2, not using a Threadlocker and/or a star lock washer on the bolts used to put your standing desk together. Without using a Threadlocker and star lock washer, you're increasing the chances that your standing desk will be unstable. A Threadlocker is an adhesive used to help lock and seal threaded fasteners, such as screws or bolts. When applied directly to a fastener's threads, the adhesive helps to prevent any loosening, leakage, or corrosion. Now, the purpose of a fastener's threads is to bind various materials together, like wood or metal, and create a tighter hold than if you were to use a fastener without threads, such as a nail. However, there are still spaces and gaps between the threads and the material it's holding onto. Those gaps leave bolts susceptible to shifting and loosening over time. And what does the loosening of bolts lead to? Standing desk wobble and instability. This is where Threadlocker comes into play. The Threadlocker will help to fill those spaces and gaps between the fastener's threads and the material it's holding onto. Now, the bond is much more secure. Here's what you should do. Check and look through the hardware packet provided by the desk manufacturer. If you see thread locking material on the bolts, you're good to go. If not, you can easily buy some at any local hardware store for about $5 to $10. There are various thread locking manufacturers, with one of the most recognized being Loctite. Loctite's Threadlocker Blue 242 is a common option, and it's one of the ones that we use here at RightAngle Products. It's also relatively simple to use. For most brands, all you have to do is apply a few drops of the adhesive to the bolt's threads at the area where it will engage with the nut or material of the component being attached. This inexpensive and user-friendly investment increases the stability of your standing desk and improves overall assembly. Now onto star lock washers. Star lock washers have external teeth that bite into the material it sits between to help create a tight grip and prevent the two materials from shifting. In the case of standing desk assembly, the star lock washer will be placed between the bolt and the standing desk component, like a cross support. Here you can see that the washer's teeth are angled both toward the head of the bolt and the surface of the other adjacent material, such as a metal desk leg or a metal bracket. Without a star lock washer, it's much easier for the bolt to loosen and shift over time as you use your desk. So all that's holding the fastener in place are the bolt's threads, and as the bolt begins to loosen, the desk assembly will weaken. Then you will start to experience desk wobble and instability. So here's what you should do. First, check to see if the hardware packet provided by the manufacturer includes star lock washers. If you see that they are included, you're good to go. If not, you can easily buy some at your local hardware store. A pack of 10 to 20 washers will range about $1 to $3. Now, while shopping, you may notice that star lock washers are also called tooth lock washers. Some will have internal teeth and some will have external teeth. Either option is fine as long as the head of the bolt covers the washer's teeth while being installed. Now that there's a significantly less chance that the bolt will shift with the help of the star lock washer, your desk will be much more sturdy and will continue to be as you use your standing desk. The third common installation mistake is fully tightening each of the screws or bolts right away as they're inserted. When the bolts are tightened too soon in the assembly process, it is much more difficult or even impossible to not just tighten the last screws or bolts, but even inserting them. Each pre-drilled hold for the screws has a little bit of play, or some ability to shift and move. When a screw is fully tightened, the amount of play or tolerance of each of the remaining holes decreases. This is especially true when you're attaching one metal component to another metal component, in comparison to those made of wood, since metal is much less forgiving or flexible. Here's an example to explain what I mean. Let's say you have to insert 4 bolts into pre-drilled holes to attach the desk's cross support. There's bolt A, B, C, and D. Now you first insert bolt A into the pre-drilled hole and fully tighten it. The result is that the other 3 pre-drilled holes don't have as much movement to maintain alignment, meaning that there is less play than before. Then you're going to go ahead and insert bolt B and fully tighten it. The result is that the last 2 pre-drilled holes have even less play. Now it becomes significantly more difficult to align those two and successfully insert the bolts. Then bolt C is inserted and fully tightened. Also, you notice it's much more difficult to do so. The result is that there's very little to no play at all on the last pre-drilled hole for bolt D. So now let's say we're going to go ahead and try to install the last bolt. It's likely that you either won't be able to fully insert the bolt, there'll be some part of it sticking out, or the bolt won't fit at all into the pre-drilled hole. So here's what you should do instead. Loosely insert all required screws or bolts for the component that you're trying to attach. This will make sure that there's enough play for each of the pre-drilled holes, and it will be much easier aligning and inserting each bolt or screw. Then, once all are loosely inserted in the pre-drilled holes, fully tighten each of them. Make sure to also pay special attention to your desk assembly instructions. Some may explicitly tell you when to keep a bolt loose or when to fully tighten it. Please take note that there is such thing as over-tightening your fasteners. Tightening them too much will cause them to strip. Standing desk assembly mistake number 4. The screws and bolts are not fully tightened by the end of the assembly process. Now this is easily overlooked by many users, and the result is that your standing desk is already more unstable and will likely continue to be worse over time. Now, to clarify, I don't mean that you should fully tighten every screw or bolt as each are being inserted, like we talked about for mistake number 3. What I'm talking about is that once all screws are aligned and loosely inserted, sometimes people will only partially tighten the fasteners. If the bolts and screws used to assemble the desk aren't fully tightened, the desk's components will shift. This will lead to wobble and an overall unstable workstation. There are 3 main reasons the fasteners aren't usually completely tightened. The most common is that a user didn't take enough extra time to secure each bolt or screw. However, it can also be because users can't get enough leverage to create a tight seal with the fasteners. Now this typically occurs when people use tools such as an Allen wrench that was supplied by the manufacturer in the hardware packet for your desk. Now it's no surprise that these free tools tend to be lower quality, usually quite small and not very robust. While it's a convenience for users who don't have their own set of tools at home, those provided tools are often unable to give you enough leverage to fully tighten each bolt and screw. The third reason is that the screws and bolts don't have Threadlocker and/or utilize a star lock washer to create an even tighter fit. To avoid this issue of not fully tightening your fasteners, you should, first, make sure to take your time when inserting the bolts. Don't rush through it. Secondly, if possible, use more robust tools than those provided with the desk's hardware packet, like a drill or a higher quality Allen wrench. Lastly, use a Threadlocker and/or star lock washers to create a tighter fit for your fasteners. This is even more crucial for those who opt to use the manufacturer-provided tools. Be sure not to over-tighten the screws or bolts so you don't strip them. By following these tips, you will adequately tighten all screws and bolts and prevent any additional desk instability and wobble. The 5th assembly mistake is not properly adjusting the desk's feet glides. Properly adjusting the glides on the underside of the desk's feet is commonly overlooked during the assembly process. Although those feet glides are small in size, they can have a large impact on whether or not your desk wobbles. Most sit-to-stand desks are equipped with adjustable feet glides. There are various glide manufacturers, but many of them tend to be round and you can adjust the height of the glides by simply turning them clockwise or counterclockwise. Without properly adjusting the feet glides, your desk will have some movement or wobble since there isn't anything to fill the gap between any unevenness between the floor and the desk's feet. These adjustable glides help to stabilize your desk and account for any unevenness in your floors. So here's how you can avoid this mistake. First, complete the entire assembly process and then place your desk wherever you'd like it to live, such as your home office. Then, get on the ground, I know, not ideal, and manually twist and turn each glide individually to adjust their heights. It's best to place a spirit level on the work surface to help determine how much adjustment each foot glide may need. Use a spirit level on each side of the work surface. This will help to make sure that each foot glide is properly adjusted. By avoiding these 5 common mistakes, assembling your standing desk will be much more efficient and effective. It will also help to improve the stability and longevity of your standing desk. I hope you found this video helpful and it makes your standing desk assembly go more smoothly. If you have any more questions about assembling your standing desk, you can contact our team at info@raproducts.com. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more office furniture tips and tricks. Thanks for watching, you guys. See you next time.